You have one more window, and it is closing faster than you think. The decade you were promised is already gone, and the market is quietly reallocating your chances to someone else, while you still believe the rules will protect you. This is not financial advice, this is financial education. I am going to show you what the next phase, from 2025 into 2027, is really doing to ordinary people in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia. And I am going to connect it to the forces that are already breaking the old middle class story. AI job displacement, the Federal Reserve's interest rate decisions, and what they did to housing and credit, the long grind of inflation on purchasing power even after headlines calm down, and the way wealth concentration keeps accelerating at the top. Everyone wants a simple explanation. So here it is, in plain language. Your job, your paycheck, your savings, and your rent are not moving together anymore. They are being pulled apart by a system that is optimized for asset holders, not for workers. And if you missed the earlier opportunities, you are not just late, you are now facing a different kind of game. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud, 2026. The economy is not just changing, it is splitting. It is rewarding speed, leverage, and attention, while punishing stability, waiting, and wage dependence. Most people will keep doing what they have always done, because it feels responsible. But responsibility is not the same thing as strategy, and the results will prove it. Before we go any further, remember this. The window is not sometime soon. The window is right now, not in 10 years, not in 5, right now. Because the mechanisms are already in motion. In the last few years, we saw hints of it everywhere. Tech moved from tools to operators. AI moved from assistants to autonomous-like workflows. Companies stopped hiring for roles that are primarily documentation, basic analysis, basic coding, basic customer support, and even parts of marketing production. And then they discovered something brutal. You can replace a chunk of labor with software, and then you can sell the productivity gains as growth. While you were told the future would reward learning, the real lesson was harsher. AI is not only learning, it is executing. Pattern interrupt. Picture a 32-year-old nurse named David. He works nights, he studies at home, he tried to upskill for a better job. In 2020, he bought a course. In 2022, he tried to build a portfolio. By 2024, he applied for roles that were supposedly entry-level tech. The screening tests were different. The tasks were different. The job posts started disappearing within hours, and then he got one automated rejection that mentioned AI matching with no human review. David is not dumb, he is not lazy, but his plan relied on the idea that time plus effort equals opportunity. In 2026, that equation is being rewritten. Opportunity is being allocated based on capital access, algorithm access, distribution access, and risk tolerance. That is why two people can both work hard and still end up on opposite sides of the gap. Now zoom out. From 2006 to 2016, many people rode a wave that felt like progress, globalization, supply chains, and a flood of investment into fast-growing sectors. Then from roughly 2010 to 2019, real estate and credit created another ladder for people willing to gamble. Many became self-made simply because they timed the market and leveraged cheap debt. Then came the internet era, when attention became a currency. For a while, it really did feel like if you built a channel, a newsletter, or an audience, the money would follow. But the internet also professionalized. Platforms consolidated. Algorithms became gates. And by 2025, build it and they will come turned into build it and survive the algorithm roulette. While brand deals demanded reach you could only get with existing money. That leaves what the original transcript tried to point toward. The next opportunity is not a new ladder in the same old structure. It is a new structure built on different rules. And those rules are being written right now. So what changed? Start with housing. In the last decade, housing prices across major cities in the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia detached from wage growth. People were told it was a temporary mismatch, a correction, a cycle. But cycles ended. The separation remained. When interest rates rose, it wasn't just a mortgage story, it was a liquidity story. Higher rates mean less borrowing power. It means fewer buyers. It means sellers either price down slowly or they wait because they have equity and patience. Meanwhile, renters keep absorbing the cost, and wages did not jump to meet the new rent reality. So your purchasing power shrank in a way that never fully shows up in a single headline. According to Federal Reserve data, household debt and interest burdens rose for many consumers even when inflation came down in the way that flatters the graphs. The numbers eased, but your life did not. Your salary did not magically stretch. Your bills did not shrink back to 2019 levels. Real purchasing power is what you feel in the checkout line, and in 2026, many people feel it every week. Pattern interrupt again. Think of your wallet like a phone battery. In 2019, you could get a day out of it. Then inflation and cost creep turned it into a phone that dies by noon. Then maybe you get a battery health report that says the battery isn't deteriorating as fast anymore. Would you celebrate? No, it's still not full capacity. You still live in power-saving mode. And that is exactly what happened with inflation. The headline rate can fall while the damage accumulates. Housing, insurance, healthcare, transportation, and groceries are sticky. Once prices embed into contracts and routines, they don't unwind because policymakers want a clean graph. They unwind when demand collapses, when businesses stop passing costs forward, or when wages catch up. None of that is painless, and none of it is guaranteed soon. Now bring AI into this, because the job market is the other half of the purchasing power story. In 2026, AI disruption is not theoretical. It is visible in job postings that ask for experience while using AI tools to produce output faster and cheaper. It is visible in layoffs that target roles that were automated for efficiency. And it is visible in the way hiring funnels became tighter, fewer human steps, more automated filtering, and less time for your background to matter. The uncomfortable truth is that the middle-class wage model assumes your labor is scarce. AI is making large categories of labor less scarce. It can still take humans, but it can scale without them. That pushes compensation toward the people who own the technology, the people who control distribution, and the people who can negotiate leverage. Cliffhanger. And when you realize that, you have to ask the next question. If the market is optimized for leverage, where does the average person go when they are already over-leveraged just trying to live? Before we answer, let's talk about the stock market. In 2026, indexes can hit highs while many families are drowning. That disconnect is not accidental. Equity markets represent expectations, but the benefits are concentrated. When prices rise, wealth rises for those who already own assets. Meanwhile, wages rise slowly, and cost of living rises quickly. That is why the top 1% can keep looking like the future is working, while you feel like the present is slipping away. Larry Fink of BlackRock has said many times that markets are driven by capital allocation and long-term narratives. But here is the dark version. Narratives can be designed, liquidity can be routed, risk can be priced unfairly, and in practice, the system tends to move wealth toward people who already have the ability to withstand volatility. Cliffhanger, and that brings us to the most dangerous lie people tell themselves in 2026. The lie is that passive income is coming to save you. Most passive income fantasies were sold with screenshots. You know the story. Buy this, hold that, earn while you sleep. But the fine print is that you need capital first. And you also need time. Because compounding requires something most people don't have anymore: stability. Now consider crypto. In the early days, crypto promised freedom from banks, decentralization, and escape from institutional control. In 2026, regulation has tightened, stablecoins became more central, and institutions moved from skepticism to ownership. Banks and large financial firms have become partners, custodians, and gateways. Retail investors still trade, but their role is narrower than the marketing suggested. And what does institutional control do to you? It means your freedom is now mediated by compliance, custody rules, and market structure designed to manage large flows. That does not mean crypto is dead. It means the original ideal got outcompeted by institutional power. So when someone tells you crypto will give you freedom, you should ask, freedom from what, and freedom for whom? Because in 2026, the advantage often belongs to whoever has the best access to liquidity. Now we are deep enough that the anger should start to make sense. Because if you grew up with the belief that hard work leads to upward mobility, then 2026 feels like betrayal. You followed rules, you studied, you took tests, you applied, you waited your turn, and the turn kept slipping. They knew, not in a cartoon way, in a spreadsheet way. They saw AI productivity, they saw housing demand, they saw how credit cycles flow through the economy, they saw that wealth concentration reduces political pressure from asset holders while wage earners remain too busy surviving to organize. They always knew, and they let it happen anyway. But now we need understanding, not just rage. Understanding means learning the mechanisms so you can stop being manipulated by your own expectations. Mechanism 1: interest rates and the credit channel. When the Federal Reserve raises rates, borrowing becomes more expensive. That affects mortgages, car loans, student refinancing, and business credit. It also affects investor behavior. High rates can shift money away from long-duration assets and toward cash-like instruments. But here is the twist that matters for you. Even if rates eventually stabilize, the damage to housing affordability can be permanent because the new price level is now anchored to a higher interest environment. People who bought earlier keep equity cushions. People who are trying to enter now absorb higher costs for longer. Mechanism 2: AI and the labor channel. AI makes some tasks cheap. It also makes some job ladders shorter. Companies can produce output with fewer people. That reduces demand for certain roles, and it increases demand for a smaller group. Managers who can direct AI tools, engineers who can integrate systems, and people who can build and maintain distribution. Everyone else becomes replaceable in the eyes of HR math. Mechanism 3, Attention Economics. In 2026, distribution is a competitive advantage. AI can generate content, but it does not automatically generate trust. Trust still needs humans, brands, communities, and consistency. That is why the creator economy does not actually function like it promised. Most creators make $0. The majority are invisible. The few who win are not just creative, they have capital, networks, or algorithmic luck. Pattern interrupt a third time. Imagine a content creator named Maya. She posts every day about personal finance. She works a second job. Her videos get views, but not revenue. Sponsorships require proof of audience quality and brand safety. Ad revenue is throttled. Her costs go up because software subscriptions and equipment aren't free. She tries affiliate links, but conversion depends on trust and timing. Then her platform changes an algorithm. Her income drops by half overnight. Maya did everything that the internet told her to do, and still her life did not improve. That is not her failing. It is the business model. It is built so that possible does not mean probable. Now here is the deeper understanding. The system rewards scalable distribution and leverage. It punishes linear effort when linear effort is no longer scarce. So what is the opportunity window you keep hearing about? It is not a magical lottery ticket. It is a shift in how you generate leverage for yourself when wage labor is being squeezed. The original transcript talked about culture and visual media, and it talked about paid knowledge and platforms. We can translate that into 2026 reality without mystical language. In the next few years, the most resilient personal wealth strategies will cluster around three arenas. First, owning valuable skills that complement AI rather than compete with it. Second, building distribution that can capture attention and monetize trust. And third, reducing exposure to the biggest inflation and interest risks through structure, not hope. But I need to be precise, because skills is too vague, and distribution sounds like hustle. So let's make it concrete. In 2026, a valuable skill is not coding in the way people meant it in 2020. AI codes better than most humans at the first draft stage. So coding alone is not a moat. Moat is integration, using data, using automation, using compliance, using domain knowledge, and producing outcomes. If you understand how a specific industry works, and you can build workflows that reduce cost or increase conversion, your labor becomes less replaceable. Let me give you a micro story. Picture a 39-year-old logistics coordinator named Sam. He used to manage shipments with spreadsheets and phone calls. In 2023, his company installed AI-assisted scheduling. Suddenly, his job became less about manual routing and more about exceptions. When the system flagged problems, managers wanted someone who could interpret why the flag happened. Sam started documenting edge cases. He built small internal tools. He created training for new employees on how to handle exceptions with AI support. He became the person who made the AI output usable. He did not compete with AI. He became the bridge between AI and reality, that is leverage. Now, distribution. Distribution is not just social media. Distribution is the ability to reach buyers consistently. That could be a newsletter, a niche community, a professional brand, a local network, a partner ecosystem, or even B2B relationships. In 2026, distribution is increasingly the differentiator between people who have ideas and people who can turn ideas into revenue. And then structure. Structure means you stop relying on one income stream. It means you reduce the probability of a total collapse. It means you plan for insurance and medical shocks, because in 2026, insurance markets are already under stress in certain regions due to climate risks, migration patterns, and losses. People get blindsided by rising premiums or reduced coverage. That is not a moral failing, it is a market adjustment. When climate-driven economic disruptions hit, the costs can land fast. And then inflation is not just prices, it is survival. Now the culture and paid knowledge part. In 2026, people pay for knowledge they can apply quickly. They pay for clarity, not for content. They pay for coaching, courses, templates, and tools that reduce uncertainty. That creates an opening for people who can translate complexity into decisions. But again, this is not everyone's path. If you cannot communicate clearly, or you cannot build trust, you will struggle in a market where attention is expensive and skepticism is high. So the opportunity is real, but it is conditional. And conditioning hurts people who want certainty. Cliffhanger, because conditional opportunities force a different question. If you can't know the future, how do you choose without losing your mind or burning years? The answer is not, try harder. That is how people get trapped. The answer is to design your process so that you reduce regret and increase iteration speed. In finance terms, you avoid all-in moves. In career terms, you avoid irreversible decisions based on vibes. There is also a mental discipline here that the original transcript described through spiritual metaphors. We can ignore the mystical layer and keep the operational lesson. Obsessing over outcomes creates paralysis. Avoidance creates delays. Delays shrink the number of tries you can afford. And in 2026, the cost of delay is higher than ever because AI cycles move fast and the labor market is adaptive. The system punishes people who wait for permission. Let's talk about the people who waited. You have seen them. The ones who kept believing their employer would reward loyalty. The ones who thought a degree guarantees stability. The ones who believed the housing market always goes up. The ones who relied on retirement savings without auditing fees, taxes, and sequence risk. Now, the retirement crisis in plain language. In many countries, retirement is not a guaranteed runway. Social security systems are under pressure from aging populations, and in the United States, the trust fund projections have been debated for years. Meanwhile, pensions are underfunded in multiple sectors. People are being pushed to work longer, but wages are not always keeping pace with the cost of living for older workers. It is not just an economic issue, it is a dignity issue, and it gets darker when you add underfunded healthcare planning. Older people may face higher medical costs, and insurance might not cover as much as it once did. And then inflation reappears inside the health budget, and the safe retirement plan becomes a fiction. Global debt makes the whole thing more unstable. World debt levels have exceeded $300 trillion. That creates a fragile environment where small shocks cascade. When debt is everywhere, interest rate changes matter more. When climate events hit, insurance and government budgets collide. When wars disrupt trade or energy, costs ripple through supply chains. So the system is not just unfair, it is fragile, and fragility tends to hurt ordinary people first. Pattern interrupt again. Think about what happens when a fragile